Hello, hello, hello there. Welcome to this bonus episode of So You Don't Put Syrup on Your Grilled Cheese. This is a podcast where we talk about some things in our family. So I'm sorry, let me start over. Blooper. Welcome. No, what I was gonna say is we're two real life cousins on this podcast. My cousin is coming in just a moment. But we talk about all sorts of things that were happening in our family that we thought was like normal, such as putting syrup on your grilled cheese. And we later discovered that it was actually the family recipe of dysfunction. And we're on a mission to heal that and talk about that and learn more about ourselves and growing and healing and dealing with trauma and all of the types of situations that might be present in this stage of life. So, when we're here, this is a space where we talk freely and transparently about the things that are important to us and the things that matter. So, I'm going to pause here for a moment because I want to make sure that we share this everywhere because today we're going to have a conversation centered in hello there. How are you? You look cute.
Well, thank you, Bill.
With your shoulder out and
I
such.
gotta give you a shoulder moment.
Yes, I'm here for it. So
Amen.
yeah, I was just telling the people that we're about to have a conversation about neurodivergence, right? And talking about kind of centered in the Amanda Seales Club Shay interview, which we know that happened a little bit ago, but it is so important. Kalanda, I was actually sitting here like, because I watched it again, right? So I keep trying to watch it with different lenses.
Mhm.
And I watched it again and I was like, we got to take this clip by clip. Like there was just so much, especially in that first hour. So I feel like this is going to be a continuous conversation that we're going to be on because there were just so many things.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. So let me share. Let me share on my page. So just in case anybody wants to get in here and interact with us on the live. And I was going to say today, I want us to introduce ourselves with our professional credentials because I think that that's important. Also for people to understand, like, there is this very much we're creative and free spirits and all that kind of stuff side. And also in the real world, we were like real work. Yeah, that's like impactful and such. So I was like, we've never like really shared our actual credentials. So I want us to do that today. All right. Jesus, that was like the longest process of everything. All right. I just shared on my page or made it public or whatever. Okay, so you want to start or you want me to start about what you're doing? You want me? Oh, you just took a bite of something. I blinked. I missed that. Okay. So in the real world, the professional world, what have you, the work that I do is as a school improvement specialist. I focus on school climate and culture, specifically creating culturally competent schools. I work a lot with trauma-informed practices, so understanding trauma and understanding how trauma changes our brain. I also exist in these spaces of social emotional learning and really thinking about the holistic of it all. So not just that I want this child to sit down and do math, but is this child actually capable of being able to do this math right now? What is their mental state? What have you? I also conduct professional developments both in the U.S. and abroad. I currently live in Medellin, Colombia, and I am entering into educational spaces here as well because I see that there's a need for mental health advocacy and understanding what happens with that. I also want to add on top of that, I had a talk show for 6 years. And interviewing people is something that I have done consistently and regularly. I also we do podcasts, right? So I wanted to just kind of put all of that in the bubble. So hold all that. All right, now you tell the people what you do.
I've been a retail manager for over 20 years, office manager, several positions, product movement. Definitely been a part of building cultures in retail spaces that are really geared towards creating safe spaces for the employees, but also for the customers and patrons, that they get their needs met. Most recently was in the dental field, working with building treatment plans and finding ways to help patients afford their treatment and be able to get that done without completely upsetting their lifestyle, but able to take care of their health. Passion of mine currently, I say currently, but it's been an underlying theme, is apparently counseling of some sort, with originally the goal being to be a high school guidance counselor, but possibly even looking at going into social work, to do licensed social work, to help with kids that need mental health rehabilitation. So that's kind of Kalonda in a nutshell. A lot of peopling is what I do. I talk to them, understand, try to match them with the services that they need, and really just leave them better than I found them in the first place.
Come on with the better than I found them. Y'all know that's the motto right there. So again, I wanted us to do that because I think sometimes people can discount what oftentimes people can discount, right? Oh, they don't know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So we wanted to kind of frame that so that we can say there is some expertise here. Like, just put it out there. So I was telling you, I rewatched the interview with Amanda Seales and Club Shay, and I tried this time. So let me not even go to this time, the rewatch. The first time that I watched the interview, I couldn't get through it. I had to take a break. About 30 something. At first, the first time I had a freak, I was maybe about 15 minutes in, and I was like, oh my God, like you just got this is not really happening, right? And then I took a break. I even did an Instagram live about it. Okay. And then like had to take a nap and breathe, and like it was a lot of stuff. And then I went back and watched it, right? What was it like for you the first time that you watched it?
Very similar. I remember like yelling at the computer, at my phone. I'm like, what? Like, shut up. Like he wouldn't let her talk. It was just immediately, and you just felt it. And I did the same thing. I paused and then I messaged you because I was like, oh my God, have you seen this? Da, 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 da. And as I sent it to you, I then went to Instagram because I was taking my break. And then I saw your live. And I was like, oh, never mind. I see you saw it. I too have taken my break now. I'll let you know when I finish this. Like, so that definitely was my first reaction was, what is this?
Correct. What is happening? Okay. So then I watched it again. Right. Well, no. So in between watching it again, I've watched a few, not necessarily think pieces, but I have read some posts, comments, maybe seen a couple TikToks, who knows. But overwhelmingly, with people understanding Amanda in it all, right? So then I was like, I feel like I'm in an echo chamber, and I try not to do that. So let me try to understand what the other side of this is. And what I realized is the depth of ignorance that comes when we're talking about anything that has to do with our brain. And when I say ignorance, I don't mean, so like in New Orleans, we would call somebody ignorant. You so ignorant, and we mean ratchet or ghetto or whatever else. I mean ignorance in the literal form of the word not knowing.
Correct.
Okay. Because words mean things. And we haven't talked about that. I was telling Bianca the other day, I was like, go watch our show from Sunday. Because I was like, ma'am, this is the same conversation. Words mean things. But anyway, so ignorance, the depth of not knowing, the depth of ignorance that is present in the world really allowed me to go back and view it with a different lens. So the second time that I went back and watched the interview, one, I didn't watch it. I listened to it.
Oh, okay.
And I listened to it from the lens of he is just incredibly ignorant,
right,
and not necessarily rude. And then I had a completely different reaction and response. So I'm wondering what it was like for you when you watched it again.
So when I watched it again, it's funny. I didn't get to the point of grace for him until I watched the Charles Barkley interview.
I still haven't watched that one.
So I realized he's just not good at interviewing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, aside from being argumentative and, or coming off as argumentative, that's just not his bag, I don't think. Or, I mean, he's done really great interviews. Obviously, we're talking about him. But it's just sometimes the structure and the follow-up, like, you can tell he has very pre-planned, like, okay, I'm going to ask this, this, and this. But then he doesn't really capture those moments where you can go in for a deeper dive and kind of explore what that is. Tell me a little bit more about that. Or, what does that mean to you? How does that show up? Like, he doesn't do that. He'll just go to his next question. And it's like, sure, you missed a wonderful opportunity to have this conversation that this person is giving you. They're just teeing it up for you.
Alley-ooped it. Or when he played football, what would it be? I don't know. I actually like football. And I don't even know what that was called. It's right here. It's in the chat. It's
right off his number.
Right in between the numbers. That's what they be saying.
In the breadbasket.
And you missed it. Right.
And I think for him, he's been very fortunate that the people that he's interviewing are like giving him, like, they're trying to help him. They're trying to make it easy and like answer these questions as descriptively as possible. But I think that was kind of where I came in with grace for him, was just, so, I mean, ignorant to kind of how he actually conducts the interviews.
Yes. And so when I listened to it the second time, that's what I landed at. And because I remember when I started with Beautiful Brown Girls, I did not know what the hell I was doing. I was trying to be somebody that wasn't me. Like, I really don't know. So when I go back and watch like those first interviews, probably my first 2 years, and I interviewed some people, I was talking to Melissa Butler of the Lip Bar, and Tanya Rapley, My Fab Finance, and Kalila Wright, A Mess in a Bottle. Like, I'm talking to these people, but I had not yet developed my interviewing skills.
Right.
And what I think that people, the danger, if you will, in platforms and the ability of having platforms is that someone equates celebrity with ability to actually be a skilled interviewer, right? Now, I didn't go to school to be a journalist. I did not. But what I did do is I watched myself back, critiqued my craft so that I'm able to capture those moments, right? So it became more about the gist of what I want to get out in the main idea, as opposed to these individual questions. And I stopped like doing an interview, like, first I'm going to ask you, second I'm going to ask you. It's like, at some point I might ask you about this. How do you feel with the spirit just flowing? It's how I started doing my interviews, because I was feeling more confident in my craft. So I am able to grant Shannon Sharp grace in he just got started with this.
Right.
And to your point, the people that there's a skill to interviewing and there's a skill to being interviewed. Because when you are interviewed and people ask you like a closed-ended yes or no question, like, as a skilled person who is being interviewed, you're going to answer that and add on, right? That's a skill. But sometimes if somebody asks a yes or no question, that's where they give you a yes or no answer. And then now we just sitting here looking at each other. And now we have to go to this awkward, like, so my next question is, right? So y'all have seen that. Y'all have seen people be not skilled at conducting the interview, and you've also seen people be not skilled at giving an interview. There are skills on both sides of it, right?
Correct.
So when I looked at it from the stance of he was just incredibly ignorant and he just didn't know anything about anything. So we're talking about he don't know nothing about interviewing.
Right.
He knows nothing about neurodivergence.
Right.
He knows nothing about race as
Correct.
far as white supremacy culture and the systemic issues of race. Nothing, right? And all of those things were the things, and Amanda didn't get it at first.
Right.
She didn't get it at first. And then it like clicked in her head and she was like,
he just doesn't got it. Okay. Like you're not fighting me. You just don't even know. You just don't
know. And you're not even open to knowing because you think that you do know, but you don't even know how much you don't know because you won't shut up so you can know.
So you can learn. Because I'll teach you. This is what I do.
Insert the misogyny, right? Like this is what I do. And that's when she was like, you're sitting in front of an expert.
Right.
I'm not just somebody who has experienced race. I'm also somebody that studies race. And I felt that so deeply.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, the people don't understand that either. The extensive digging into systems that you do when you study race.
Right.
And how world shaking it is because it is so deeply embedded in every piece of everything that we do.
Right.
That if somebody isn't there yet in understanding even what a system is, there is no way to even awaken them to understand it. I don't care what type of skin they live in.
Right. They just don't have a reference at all to even understand it.
Correct. So that landed on me, right? Then I'm like, I saw somebody say somewhere, maybe on TikTok or something, they were like, Shannon Sharp is an athlete in the South. He was treated basically as a house nigga. Right. So he was the prized possession. So yeah, they treated you real well. So no, you don't really have an understanding of how racism might manifest systemically and all of that because you were protected from that. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And it also doesn't mean that you haven't experienced it. You just didn't know that you did. You just didn't know what to call it.
Right.
So I felt her on all those things. And it's a lot, but I have some actual like things that I want to ask, right? Or talk about.
Right.
Because I believe the reason that we both, and the people that I saw that had the responses that they had, I believe that the reason that we felt so passionate about it is because we understand it because we live this life. Right. So what I wonder is, when did you start wondering if you were like neurodivergent? Like what made you start being like,
something's different?
Yeah. This might be on to something.
I don't know if my brain works the same way as everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think I didn't really know a word for it until like TikTok generation when it diagnosed everybody. And I say everybody, but I mean, just your algorithm showed up and you were like, wait a minute.
But side note though, can I just say, I don't believe that there's a such thing as neurotypical.
Right. I mean, well, because
I really don't.
We've talked about this with normal, like very subjective. What is it really? Everybody's version is a little different. Like, you're going to have a different grasp of how to move through the world just based on your experiences.
Correct.
So, absolutely. So but you have to have the baseline to have the conversation, I guess.
For sure. I guess. So you were saying.
But yeah, so I don't think I really had a word for it. And then I was just thinking, oh wow, like that sounds like me. That relates. And I'm going, well, maybe there is more to this, and then looking into, the ADHD, the autism scale, like who knows, and then being high functioning depression, like those all went into it of like, okay, well, what is all of this? How does it all correlate? Anxiety, all of that. And so I guess it's probably been within the last maybe 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I guess 3 to 4 years, I'd have to say, where it was a real, like, what is this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's the same, kind of around the same for me. I was trying to remember what, because let me say this, that I'm a teacher,
Right.
right? I've been in
Right.
education
Right.
a long time.
Yeah.
And my idea of autism has evolved so drastically
Oh, I bet.
over the time. Oh, so I'm sorry, it was a huge lightning bolt.
Oh, wow, I heard it, but
And it's weird
it
because,
sounded like static though. Like,
yes,
yeah.
that's what made me look like, what is that? But also, we don't really be getting lightning here. So this is interesting. But yeah, when I first started teaching, the autistic students were in the portal,
Right. Right.
out
Yes.
back,
Yeah.
and these were students that, so autism is a spectrum, y'all.
Right.
Neurodivergence is a spectrum, right? And I think that we need to honor that, what that word means, because a spectrum means that you can, like, when they say a pendulum swings, right? So you can be all the way on this side, or you could be all the way on that side, or you could be somewhere in the middle, right? So neurodivergence and autism is a spectrum. You can be anywhere up in here, right? But they had, in the portables in the back, the kids that were on this side of the spectrum. So students that may have been nonverbal, or students that had issues with motor skills, or those types of things, right?
Right.
So that was my understanding of autism at first,
Right.
right? So then over time, friends started having children, right?
Mhm.
And then autism awareness would come around, right? And they would be like, oh, it's Autism Awareness Month, wear blue and all that kind of stuff, right? So then I was like, oh, wow, that's really nice, but I'm still thinking Special Olympics,
Right.
like,
Right.
on this side of the
Right.
spectrum, right? I remember over the course of teaching that I came across students that were labeled as having Asperger's.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking to myself, they seem pretty normal to me.
Right.
Like,
They
okay.
just don't
And I
like
was
you.
sitting,
That's how it usually manifested. They were super smart, did what they wanted. They just didn't want to be your friend. Like, leave them alone.
leave me alone. I'm about to sit over here and read my book.
Right.
And or I'm about to sit here and watch the grass. So just leave me alone. Like, and
Right. Teacher's dream. Teacher's dream.
never had a problem. Never, right?
Do the work.
Student teacher conference. Hey, parent teacher conference. A's all around.
Killing it.
Pleasure.
Killing it.
Pleasure to have in class. The only time we have issues is if it's for group work.
Right.
And at that point, I just started giving them options, and cool.
Here we go.
Done with that. So over, like, having seen these different instances labeled as autistic, like,
Mm-hmm.
I really was thinking about it in that context. It wasn't until, it actually might have been around 2020. I met this lady at a school in Hillsborough County. I was doing some contract work, and she was the principal's secretary.
Okay.
And she was on it. You hear me? Sis knew everything that was going down with everything. She had the system. She had them people together. You hear me? She was doing them afternoon announcements, they rocking and rolling. Okay. I was like, I like you. You a lot, right? So then we friended each other on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And she I started seeing posts of from ADHD or autism or whatever. So I'm reading the post and I'm like, that definitely sounds like me, but I don't think that. But okay, like, girl, that's funny, right? Then I'll share it again, right? Well, of course, the more that you share, the more the algorithm is gonna feed you, right? So now more things are coming up, and I'm like, this really,
they talking to me.
this kind of feels like me, right?
Right.
So then eventually, after that happens for so long, what you go do?
Start looking.
You go start looking and you go find you a test to take.
Yeah.
Right. So then you go find the test and then you take the test and the test is like, yeah, that's what you had thought.
You're right. You're right. You get this good quiz.
Right?
You passed.
So you passed with flying colors, baby. You on here, baby. You on here, right? So I was getting frustrated with the lack of understanding of self-diagnosis because it's valid. Like you live with yourself, right?
Right.
So you've started asking those questions. You started doing the research, right? And then you get over there into the ADHD, ADHD, autism, TikTok, baby. You sees yourself everywhere. Okay. Because again, I don't believe that there is a neurotypical brain.
Right.
I believe that all of our brains are neurodivergent. And when you think about divergent, that has to do with diversity, right? So in this neurodivergent world, you own one side of the spectrum or not. It might not be that every single day all of these things might be happening, but it might be your one or two things where you like, hey, don't you step out that shower onto that bath mat and make it wet. And I'm like, but ain't that what bath mats is for?
That's what they do.
So that might just be your one thing, right? You might be on this side of the spectrum, whereas somebody else might have a whole bunch of things, right? But we all up on here.
Right.
We all up on here.
We're on the spectrum.
So it was frustrating me because what happens after that, then you go talk to your therapist.
Right.
And you're like, hey.
Why you didn't say nothing? First off.
You saw this in the first or the second session. Sis.
Like you
and now we had to go through all this rigmarole for me to get here to finally be able to be like, I think that
I get a virus on my computer from this ADHD quiz that you could have told me about when you knew good and damn well.
You could have just told me.
I paid you for this. I give you actual money for this.
You could have just told me, and we could have skipped all of that of me thinking, because I remember my psychologist saying to me, she was like, nothing, you are not the problem. She was like, because I kept saying, I was talking to her about how people just leave. I was like, people just evaporate from my life. Like, and it is wild because again, in not recognizing social cues, I don't necessarily know it's the issue because you're sitting up here telling me everything is fine and everything's not fine. And then I'm looking at your body language and I'm seeing that it don't seem fine, but you tell me that it's fine. So I don't want to keep asking you because I know if you keep asking me, I'm gonna get mad and now I'm mad because you keep telling me I'm mad. So I don't want to keep asking, right? So then I just be like, okay, I guess everything is fine. But then here you come 2 weeks later and you got your stuff packed at the door talking about everything ain't fine.
Can't do this. Like
I
asked you.
So I was talking to my psychologist about that, right? And she was like, I need you to understand that's not about you.
Right.
She said, you expect people to be impeccable with their word. You expect them to have integrity. You expect them to have transparency and communication. You expect that they're going to use words that mean things and they're going to use the words according to the definitions that have been established for those particular words, or make sure that you understand if you're using the word in a different context so that you're able to understand. And everybody can't handle it. So that's why they leave. And I was like, I couldn't take it at first. At first I was like, clearly I'm the problem, sis. I done did the math and the math is mathing. It is clearly.
I am the drama. I am the drama. I am the common denominator. Like, that's what they tell you to look at. Like, it must be me. What did I do? Where does my responsibility lie? Not to say that anybody's blameless, but
right, but that's the difference is we accept the accountability for the things that, like, yes, I will give you. I definitely did that. I sure did. I said it, and that was not okay.
That was my inside voice.
I can see how we got here.
Right,
Okay, great, right?
What's
But
from here,
what do we do from here, right? I'm done. We've talked about it. So I was trying to understand how I needed to be different in order to keep people in my life. Is basically what I was doing, right? I was like, what do I need to fix? Because clearly I'm broken and that's why they're leaving. Right. And she said to me, she was like, I need you to understand that what you require from people, they're not ready to do. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with somebody that I had considered to be a friend, and they said to me, listen, it's not you. Okay, I don't want to be who you want me to be right now. I'm just not trying to be that person. And therefore, I know that's who I should be, but also I ain't trying to do it. It's me. I'm the problem, and my bad. Like, it wasn't until that moment that I made that connection. So I feel like so many of us, specifically as Black women who are neurodivergent, that we have these situations where we wind up turning it inwards because we don't, who we have had to be,
right,
is not supporting who we need to be, if that makes sense.
And then even what got us here in certain cases is where we get that like turn inward. It's like, okay, I can't control anybody else. I can control myself. Right. Like that, I have 100% control over. So if I look at this problem and find a way that I'm responsible for it, then I have a way that I can fix it.
Correct.
And so correct. Your first goal, because you want to fix it, is okay, this is what I did wrong.
I can control me. I'll fix me.
I'll be better next time. I'll not speak up about that because that made you uncomfortable.
Correct.
And, okay, cool. Or I'll make sure I ask this earlier. Or like you just start to kind of figure out how to contort yourself in order to do it. But I think it's super telling that when you had that conversation with that person, that many people aren't just not going to say that. They're not going to acknowledge that you're asking something of them that they are able to do, but unwilling to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, but saying that is so freeing to someone who thinks like us, because it's like, okay, I can understand that. Like, I know now that I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not asking for too much. I'm not like being unreasonable. It's just something you don't want to do. Cool. I can work from a place with that. We could still be friends in a place from that, because I at least know, like, this is where you are. Okay, I'm gonna deal with you where you are.
Correct.
And that looks like within my boundaries is what that will be, but it at least gives me an option to do that for you. The other way just leaves no room, because there's no conversation that's happening, and everything you're doing outside of your words is contrary, and I can see it. Like, I can see it.
And we talked about on Sunday how now you just a liar. Like, now just know you just a liar.
You just don't tell the truth.
You don't tell the truth, and you don't even tell the truth to yourself. So how the hell I expect you to tell the truth to me? And you sitting here telling me that you fine, and you walking around here slamming cabinets.
What did that?
You got to go.
You? What did that?
You a liar.
You're clearly mad. And I used to tell people this even at work, because it's one of those places where there is that kind of barrier, of how much are you sharing of your personal life and whatever, but there are people that you see. So if something's a little bit off and you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? Nothing. And I would frequently say, like, you don't have to say that. Like, I can see something's wrong. Like, you can tell me I don't want to talk about it. Like, tell me you don't want to talk about it, and cool. But I just want you to know that I recognize something is going on. And if you want to talk about it, I am here. Like, but everything's fine. It's fine. Everything's like, why? You don't have to do that. No one believes it. Who's it for?
But keep in mind, and this is what I be forgetting, everybody doesn't see people. Right. So a lot of people just look at people. They looked at you, they saw you clocked in and get to going. Right. You took the moment to stop and see that something is happening. So if that person, they're not used to people asking them with intentionality what's going on or how you doing. How many people be all right, hey, how you doing?
And that's the general greeting here in New Orleans. How you doing?
And I hate it.
And you just walk by. How you doing? Don't even pause. Not even a stop in the steps, not listening for the answer. As a matter of fact, I'm having a craptacular day. Thank you for asking. Almost got into a car accident. Got a ticket last week. They about to turn my lights off. Like all this stuff. And it's like, whew, I needed that. Meanwhile, you halfway down the block because you was just saying, hey.
That's it.
I acknowledge your presence as a person on the side.
That's it. So if that's all you want to say, just say hey or say good morning. But don't ask somebody how they doing if you're not going to hold space for that, right? But we do it all the time. So then we're trained that when somebody asks us that we just give an emotionally unintegrous, if that's the word, answer. Oh, I'm fine. Everything is fine. But no, I'm asking you with intentionality, but we are the anomaly in the things, right? And that's the thing that I kind of been like, trying to wrap my mind around is, remember we had the conversation about being regular.
Yes.
Right. And you was like, you are nothing but regular. And I'm still working on accepting that. Okay. But also I want you to know that you ain't regular neither.
Oh my God.
Because we're not regular, because we have the gift of seeing and the gift of empathy and the gift of feeling energy and like all of that, we are always going to pick it up. But everybody, I'm not going to say everybody doesn't have it, because I do believe that every single person is gifted.
Know how to
they just don't acknowledge it. They don't know how to access it. They don't know what it is, right? So they've been calling it them being crazy all this time, and that's actually your gift, right? So but I want us to know, as people who recognize that we are gifted and as people who operate in our gift, we're always going to see things with a different lens and be willing to see things with a different lens.
And be willing to have the conversation about it. Because there's that level of curiosity that's there of like, I want to know. I want to know the difference. I want to understand. I want to understand.
I want to understand.
I want to understand. I want to understand and I want to be understood.
Oh
like those are the
That's it.
If you could just understand where I'm coming from,
that's it.
Then I feel like that would make everything so clear. And that's why when we talked about parentheses and like putting in additional context, like that's why everything has an asterisk and takes like a bumblebee track, because there's so much other information that goes into this answer. It's not yes or no. Like I can't tell you yes or no.
Correct.
Not in me. Not in me. There's a lot of things.
There's no way to access it, because in order for you to truly understand my yes or my no, there has to be context.
Right. That like you gotta see how I got there.
Right. Like, and I'm working on not, remember I told you on Sunday, like I be feeling like I have to justify like my existence. I'm working on not framing it that way, like not justifying, but more I'm giving you a roadmap. And I think that I'm going to start using that language. Like this is a roadmap to understand me. And I will know whether it is important to you or not based on how you treat me. Because I'm giving you the answers to the test. I want you to be successful.
Right.
I do. It's open, like
all of it.
All you got to do is press play or read it, or that's it. In multiple forms. We talked about this. I done sent videos, I done sent music, I done sent articles.
All of it. Here's a meme, like whatever version you need it in.
TikToks, worksheet.
You. Quizzes, like hello.
I told Bianca on yesterday, I said, I'm going to develop a application for access. Because I told her, I said, some of the questions, what did I put on here? I said, some of the questions that we need to ask are, what do these words mean to you? transparency, accountability, integrity. Ask, what is your relationship with words? Right? Or what else did I say? Bianca said we should add, how do you resolve conflict? When you are faced with obstacles or frustrations. Like,
I want to know what you look like angry. Like, I need to know, like, when you don't get your way, what does it look like?
So I told her we need to start doing this before we even, like, this is through email. You know what I mean? It's like, give me your email address. You can submit this Google form. Okay, I'll review your responses, and my people will get back to you within 3 to 5 business days. If you don't hear anything after that, that means that your application was not accepted.
Was not selected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. And I wish you the best. There is someone out there for you. It is just not me. And that's in I'm talking friendships, business, partnerships, every single thing, because I'm learning that my literalness of it all is not the common of it all. And in this unmasking journey, I really have just, like, I feel like I need to be more intentional with the types, because I give people this standard level of trust. I was telling Bianca this yesterday. Like, I'm not the type of person where I start people out with a deficit. I start people out with, you get the base level, and then what you do with that, is up to you. And sometimes that might have rolled real quickly.
Right.
And then, other times it might build. But I never want to feel like I'm starting somebody out at a deficit, but I also need to control or do something about the benefits of the doubt that I give to people. Like, I just make assumptions that people view the world within this equitable way, and that is not the truth.
Right. I know that was a conversation I had with my therapist, because I trust you. Like, because you have not given me a reason to not trust you. So I'm not doing anything with the intent to harm you. So I'm assuming, which is, not supposed to do that, but I'm assuming that you're not doing anything to harm me. So I'm going to deal with you wide open. Like, all right, cool. And as you show me different things, that may adjust how I allow you to access me, or what parts of my life you have access to, because you've shown that you can't be trusted with that. And that's fine. And that may still exist in other spaces, that it's perfectly okay. But I may know, you know what? I'm not talking to you about how I'm getting my hair done, because last time you told me to get a mushroom. Like, I don't know. You can't be trusted. So, like, having to identify that. But what was interesting was my therapist said that was not how you should interact with people. She's
really?
Like,
we should do the opposite?
She's like, that is a very childlike way of trusting. Until they're shown a reason not to. And she's like, you should have a healthy fear and a healthy, like, boundary already in place that says everybody doesn't get access to me. I don't know you. I don't owe you anything. Like, there's no reason that you should have the same amount of access to me as my friend of 15 years. And I was just like, blink, 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 blink. What? Because I'm like, but to me, that feels like harsh and not me.
I just told Bianca this yesterday. I was like, it feels icky in my body to like not trust people.
Right.
Yes.
Like, if I have to look at you like I can't trust you, I can't be around you.
Correct.
Because if I can't trust you with this, I don't know how far that spreads. Which sounds very opposite of what I just said, that you could still exist in those areas. But, like, depending on where that trust is, if I can't trust you, like, I can't be around you. Like, I don't want to look. And that was actually when I worked at Best Buy for years and years and years. I always worked in operations. And I loved working in operations because it was over like the hiring and training and orientations and seeing the light bulb moments and all the fun of the people learning the things and like being successful and all that good stuff. And you have the answers to the questions. Like you're that person, like you're like the mom, whatever, not mom, but whatever. And then I switched over to like the product process side, which dealt more with like the movement of products in and out of the stores. That was no big deal. But the asset protection of it all, I had to make a switch from let me look at all my baby birds and get them under my wing and show them how to navigate this world to now let me look at you and figure out how you're trying to steal from me. And how do I counteract that? What do I set up to keep you from being successful in that regard? Like, and I did not like having to operate in that space. That doesn't feel good to me. And so I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel like I'm working with people I can't trust because I'm here because I enjoy what I do. And if I can't trust you, I can't enjoy what I do because now I'm not.
I need to unpack this with my psychologist tomorrow. Because she has been saying to me, we've been talking about access. And I was telling her that, like, I feel like I'm just assessing every aspect of my life. And, I'm looking at what I'm following on social media, like all sorts of things. And she was like, something I want you to start considering is how much access people have to you. So I was like, okay, girl, like, it's fine. But also I live in Columbia, like ain't nobody here. You know what I mean? So, but there's so many ways to have access. And then I started thinking about this. I don't even remember what made me think about this with Bianca yesterday, of talking about this, like, not just giving people trust. But then what really sat with me that you said was it's a childlike way of looking at things. And I think that there is a true innocence in the way that our brains approach people and the way that we've had to be because the world required us to be that way for safety. Right. Because even I was thinking about earlier stimming. Right. And stimming can look like so many things. It could look like the extreme, over here on this side of, flapping and vocals and, but stimming could also be how T used to rock us back and forth all the time. That's and stimming. All the time, baby. T gonna get you together, baby. You gonna be good to go right here. Yeah, baby. T got you, right? Like, that's stimming, right? And when I thought about it, I was like, why? Because again, the masking and unmasking of it all, right? Because I want to give grace to our ancestors in that they didn't know, and anything that looked like danger, they had to shut that shit down.
Correct.
Right. So a child who is moving around and being a child, you're doing too much. You got to sit down. You got to be quiet because master gonna come, and it's a life or death situation.
Exactly. If I don't nip in the bud in the house, then somebody out in the street is gonna do it, and they don't care about you.
And then you might not come home.
Exactly.
Right. So it is landing on me very heavily of how we have been conditioned to mask and to place ourselves into these boxes of acceptability or whatever it might look like for our safety. But I think that now, I'm not going to say that it's safe at all, because it's not, especially in the United States of America. But I think that because there is so much more access to information, and what I love about the generation that's coming up right now, the ones I had a chance to talk to some students yesterday from St. Augustine University in North Carolina, and they're here in Medellin. So like I actually saw them in real life, right?
Real life people.
Right. And there are 2 interns that are going to stay and work with Bianca and I. But I was talking to them, I was talking to them about what I do, right? Which is a very big question, So I was trying to what's it called, cliff noted as much as possible, but I mentioned neurodivergence and I talked about like we have this podcast and all that. And one of the young ladies came up to me and she was like, I heard you say that, and I'm neurodivergent, and that connected with me. How can we remain connected? Wow. And I feel so proud of them because they are willing to explore their brains and they are willing to tap into their empathy, and they have the freedom, or they're taking the freedom to do that. And it just makes me so proud to see them. But also for our generation and our parents' generation, it's a lot of work to do. I think our generation, we're starting, like there's a movement of us that is starting to do this, but it's definitely the outliers of it all.
Right. It's not,
you know,
everywhere. I had the conversation with Eric, about just saying, oh, something about neurodivergent. And he was like, what? Like, it wasn't even a word for him. Wasn't even a word. Like, just does not exist in his circle at all. And I'm like, and it was so surprising to me because I feel it so intensely all the time. Like, that it was like, oh, there are people who just don't even, it's not even a question. It's not a blip on the radar. Wow.
It's like either you behaving appropriately or you're not. You know, it's very like black and white, which is weird, Kalanda, because I used to be real black and white. I used to be really, really black and white. But that's why I be wondering, like, the stuff that I'm now, the way that my mindset is shifting. I don't know if that was ever me.
Ever really you.
You know what I mean? Like, when I think about the religious programming, when I think about the types of things that were beaten out of us, or like all of that, I'm like, I don't know that I was ever that person. Because I always had questions.
Right.
I just learned not to ask them because I didn't want to get my ass beat.
Right.
But in my brain, I had plenty of them.
To know, like, why and how. Like, if you say this, but you do that, there's no way. Those two things cannot coexist. And I can see that. And if me as a kid can see it, then I don't understand how but you couldn't bring that up. You couldn't even have those emotions. You couldn't display
emotions. What are those?
Anytime I talk with anybody about feelings, I'm like, sadness, I was able to own. I know you had like some issues around not being able to be, but like sadness I can have. I was able to have sadness. Anger?
Anger. You got food and you got a house?
Right.
Anger.
And like you don't have the right to that. And so now I don't know what that looks like. Like, I don't know what that looks like. And it's just, you don't realize the things that you put on the back burner of yourself in order to move through the world, in
order to remain safe.
And with you saying, like, we just weren't, maybe that never was who we were. And I think after both of our kind of, I don't know what to call it, but whatever, after our things, that we both were able, I think, to then truly say, you know what, it was killing me. Trying to be that person was killing me. And I was trying my best. I was trying my hardest. I wanted it to work because that is what got me accepted and loved and cared for. And it was easy on everybody. But it was killing me. And after January, it was like, okay, you can't do that anymore. Like, you have to figure out what this is and really just own it, and not know what you don't know and say that. Like, because when I tell you to this day, it's still, what is this purpose? Like, what am I doing? Like, it's gotta be a reason, but I'm here. I'm still trying to figure it out, but like, not being so hard on myself about it, but realizing that whatever was happening before was mostly a reaction to just outer influences.
Yes. It makes me, it allows me to give myself grace.
Mm-hmm.
It allows me to realize that I wasn't consciously abandoning myself, but also that as a child who is thanks, StreamYard. As a child who was concerned with safety, I became who I needed to be in order to remain safe. Right. And in this process of discovery, like, I feel like I continue, and I don't think it stops. Like, you know, I think it only, because again, the more that we research and the more that we learn about brains and our own brains, and the more that we're able to honor that, I think the more that we'll dive down more rabbit holes and stuff. But it's really, I guess, you don't know what you don't know. Exactly. You know, but now that you do know, how are you holding yourself accountable and responsible for being who you actually are? Right. And what I'm trying to figure out right now is how I balance this whole access thing that we just talked about. You know, like, how do I honor the core of myself that loves people and loves to help people and shows up with pure intentions, with understanding that everybody else doesn't do that. So I have to be cautious. I can't just fearlessly frolic about the world, because everybody isn't of the same mindset, without becoming closed. Because I remember what that felt like I remember hosting meetings and people were crying, and we'd be talking about data, because I was over the department or whatever. And we were talking about data, and they crying because their data wasn't well, which means their students didn't learn and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, so you need to step outside, because like I still need that. So,
we still gotta finish.
Like, and I still need the data. So do you have it or no? Like, I'm not, and just very much don't give a damn about none of your tears, you know? And now it is so opposite, where I am paying attention to everything and all that. So it's like, I'm trying to find my balance in all of that, of not being so empathetic that I'm just woefully ignorant, you know, or being so closed that now I look like I'm unapproachable, and you know, all the things you remember they used to say about me as a child, like I wouldn't go to nobody, and I always had a tear, and because y'all funny acting.
I could feel this. I knew something. These children know something.
To be true.
These children know something. All of them. When you're forcing them to go give hugs and kisses to so and so, and they don't want to go stay by such and such, like, oh my God, there is a reason. The part that sucks is the children, they don't have the vocabulary to say what it is.
Correct.
But it's the most innocent, pure form of recognizing
somebody energy ain't right. Yeah. So this is a journey, and we appreciate y'all for coming along on this journey with us, as we try to figure it out, because we don't know. And
I know they had that saying that it was like the behaviors that helped you survive will not serve you when it's time to thrive. Like, oh, like, okay, all right then, got it, you know. Wow. And so it's having to check yourself in the middle, like, okay, which version of Kalanda would have made this decision, you know, and which one aligns with where I am right now, because you do the ones that you know, like, that's you don't have to think about that, you know, but just really saying, like, is this really the right way to answer that? Is that the honest way to respond to this situation? So, but I like that.
Well, all right then. So on that note, we gonna call it a day. This is gonna come back up, y'all, because we still have hella things that we
didn't even. We just talked about rewatching it. We didn't even.
I know we didn't even start doing clip to clip. Like there's just so much, but I also wanted people to be able to hear like our process, right, in all
Yeah.
of this. And because I do believe that others are asking themselves questions and they're wondering, like they're like, I see myself in that too. Like, and that's healthy. Like keep asking questions. And for me, it's not this last time I said before we go. It is not for me as important to have a concrete diagnosis as it is for me to understand that my brain functions differently and how my brain functions. Right. So I'm not caught up in whether it's ADHD, autism, PTSD, depression, anxiety.
Right.
It's
just
all of it.
Just show me what it is and how to navigate it. That's
it's
it.
all of that. And this is what I need to do to make accommodations in order to be successful. Exactly. And I'm taking the shame or embarrassment or whatever off of those accommodations. This is what I need to do in order to feel at peace in my body and to feel safe in my environment. And if you cannot honor that, then you are not welcome in my space.
There it is. Simple as that.
We'll be back with our next episode. So you don't put syrup on your grilled cheese on Sunday, May 19th. Please do go back to Minding My Black Ass Business on YouTube so that you can see what has led up to this. We just started this, y'all. This is the community we are building in real time. And our conversations are developing as our lives develop. So we invite y'all along for the journey. Kalonda, where do people can find you at if they're looking for you?
Right here at the house. Swabby.
Kalonda's at the house if y'all looking for her. If you're looking for me, I'm out here ish on the internet, minding my black ass business. Other than that, we will see y'all next time. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.